If U.S. involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan were to largely end during your term, how would you propose to restructure the U.S. military?
The U.S. military needs to be thinking out to the horizon. That's the key issue in restructuring the military. You can't think about just this war or what's in front of you today. You can't just think about Iraq or Afghanistan when you're planning for the future. You have to think about what countries are out there. Where are your allies? Where are your enemies? Where are those who are rebuilding their military literally as we speak? You have to look to Iran, which literally Iran, it continues, I believe, to work toward having a nuclear weapon. That changed the whole dynamic of the Middle East. You have to look to an ally like Israel, a friend in a part of the world where we don't have many friends. And how do we make sure that that relationship continues to stay strong, because it's so very important for that whole area of the world. You have to look at the impoverished countries like Africa and try to figure out how do you help them, because those can be a hotbed for all of the wrong kinds of things. So that's what you really have to do. You have to look to the future beyond where you are at today and plan for that.
This is a particularly poignant issue for me since I was raised on a military base. And I do have lots of friends who've served all over the world, not just in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also in places like Rwanda, all across the world. And so the military does need to think about the next threats. That right now, what we've had is we've had a policy that has actually done more disservice to the larger equation that we need to face and the security threats that we face as a nation, to include our letting terrorists in Afghanistan and Pakistan, that border region, get completely and totally out of control, to where now heroin traffic is up, as I mentioned before, and that we do face tremendous threats. We have let this happen because we have forgotten what the military knows best. And that is that the military is a wonderful, powerful tool, but that it works most effectively when we use it with diplomacy. That those can be powerful. We learned this in the Cold War. Even Ronald Reagan knew this particularly well, that we can actually be much stronger and smarter in how we deploy our forces. The last thing, and I have to mention this, is it troubles me that we say support the troops and yet we cut veterans' benefits when they come home. Okay. That is wrong for our country.
In terms of restructuring our military, I think we could cut our military in half and have a $500 billion war spending, and we would still be, we would maybe even be safer, because we are projecting such a violent image in the world that, you know, it's ridiculous. We're breaking treaties that we've signed in terms of not militarizing outer space. We're trying to get nuclear weapons out into the heavens, and so that we can have total domination of the earth, and to be able to launch weapons within 1 hour to anywhere in the world. And again, we're breaking treaties that we've signed. We've got to back off of this sense that, you know, where's the next war? Where's the next war? We can build a peaceful world, and we've got to do it. We've got to focus our national energies on building renewable energy. You know, we're all saying that it's too expensive to build wind energy and solar. If we invested in it, we'd find the solutions. Our young people would find the solutions, and we need to do that.
Let's talk about an issue that impacts every village and neighborhood in the state. What is the most accurate measure of success of a school or a teacher?
Performance. You know, it's funny, here we are at this school. I had the very same discussion about how best can we do right by our students, by our schools, by our young people who are going to solve these challenges for us. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, the importance of education. It was funny, I'm not going to mention him by name, but I had a discussion just before this debate tonight about how best could we assess growth and achievement. You know what this person said, who's very high up in this school that we are at tonight? He said, rather than test 8th grade class this year with 8th grade class next year, why don't we test this 8th grade class, test them again in 9th grade, test them again in 10th grade, so that we can see that there's progress per class, per student. That's what we could do. That's what we should do. And unfortunately, No Child Left Behind has not let us do that. That as parents and students and teachers know, classes differ. So that's the best thing that we could do. We could assess achievement based on individual classes or individual students, and then start investing in early childhood education, start investing in post-secondary education, so that we know that we are actually achieving the results that we want. That's how we should have written No Child in the first place.
In education, I think that we need to develop the greatest potential of every student to succeed in our world and to be contributors to our world and make a better world, and that's where we need to start. But I'll tell you something that's happening in Lincoln, Nebraska right now. I live across the street from a middle school like this school, and every semester in the middle school, this is with 11-year-olds to 13-year-olds, there are military recruiters coming in and doing games out in the park across the street from my house. And what they say, you know, and to me, this is wrong. You know, and there are UN treaties that we don't recruit children into militaries, and yet the United States is one of the few countries that won't sign the rights of children not to be recruited into militaries. But the National Guard, and they get away with this because it is really against the law in our country as well, but they get around it by saying that our funds for public health are so shrunk down that we have to, they're teaching them drug awareness and avoiding alcohol and drugs, but they're also passing out literature to join the National Guard.
Performance standards are a good thing. There's, if you set a standard, a goal, and then you measure along the way, people will respond to that. Nothing wrong with that. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is this, and I oppose No Child Left Behind as a governor. I oppose it as a candidate for the United States Senate. Here you have the federal government, which provides somewhere around 10% of the cost of K through 12 education. They are not a large participant telling you how to run your school district, telling you what the standards are going to be, telling your teachers what they are going to teach. I just fundamentally believe that that decision is best left with parents and the school board, and the state, of course, is a significant participant. Here's the role of the federal government. Keep their promise. They promised way back when that they would fund special education at 40% of the cost. Today they fund 18%, and they want to tell you how to run your school. It's the wrong approach.